So pretty much, you know, anybody who's trying to uplift the younger generation, you definitely want to be a role model because they're gonna be pretty much like a sponge. They're gonna take in every single thing that they see you doing. So anybody who comes to us, I make sure I'm doing the right thing at all times. I watch what I post on social media because I know I can't preach something and not practice it. I have to practice what I preach. So I tell my kids like, look, first impression matters. If I'm carrying myself into a negative manner, how can I get on you guys for carrying yourself into a negative manner? It makes no sense. I pretty much be like a hypocrite. If you find somebody who like a professional businessman who offers consultations, right? You're paying for the shortcut. You're not paying for the knowledge. You're paying for the shortcut. So imagine meeting with people and not even having to pay for the shortcut. That's a degree in itself because they're going to pitch so many jewels to you. You know what I mean?
Folks, this is Sifu Slim, and this is one of my first live YouTube conversations, interviews in quite some time. So we're calling it freestyling. And I was never a rapper who could freestyle, but I used to be able to rap back in the day. Skilly bebop, we rap, a Scooby Doo, or guess what? America, we love you, et cetera, et cetera. And so I got known when I was working with high school students and junior high school students as the rapper. And my last name starts with a K. So I used to put Mr. K as my logo. And on the flip side, it had MCK. So if I needed to go into the rap mode, the dance mode, the interact with the kids mode to keep them awake and to keep them attentive, then I would break out the raps and the dance type of thing. So I used to be a professional mascot. So I used to be able to, and I still can because I'm still pursuing lifelong fitness, dance. And it's interesting that even though when I was doing it full time in my late 20s, early 30s, I had some moves. I feel like I can do some of the things better now just because of years of listening to the music, listening to the beat, and knowing your body. So I'm going to pass this over to Javaris, who can introduce himself and let us know if he can relate to anything that Sifu just shared.
What's going on? Appreciate it. First and foremost, thank you for having me. My name is Javaris Neely. I'm president, founder of Palm Beach Youth Football Alliance, Palm Beach Ibis Youth Football, here located in West Palm Beach, Florida. We were established in 2019. The core mission of the organization is, just to give kids of Palm Beach County an opportunity to learn how to play football uh, the right way, and just give them a brotherhood to join that's bigger than the game on the field. We do a lot of things off the field with the kids, teaching them life skills, providing them with mentorship, and pretty much just instilling hope into the youth, and keeping them out of trouble. That's pretty much what the organization represent as a whole. Anybody who's looking to register, I tell them, hey, when I was growing up, Boy Scouts was a thing. Just people wanted to go on Boy Scouts. You probably didn't know anything about them, but you joined just because of what they could provide and offer you, those tools that you can use later in life. So, we get you here because of football, but we teach you a lot of things about real life. Everything we do is related to real life.
Well put. You can probably relate to, I'm about the same age as Randall Cunningham, and he's from Santa Barbara. And I spent a lot of time in Santa Barbara, and I've met him a few times. And I've interviewed his older brother, Sam, who passed away, unfortunately, about 2 years ago. And four student athletes growing up on a street that was all black or mostly black kids. back in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s. And these kids worked hard. They had really good mentors. They had good parents, hardworking parents. And, Randall became a pastor within the last 20 some years. And he's just a highly motivated person, and he's a leader person. His older brother by about 11 years, Sam, who's a bigger athlete who played fullback at the New England Patriots and also at USC, and was in as a sophomore, and he starred in this famous game. If you can look it up on the internet, you might enjoy it. It's called the Civil Rights Football Game, and it has the students where they had more African-American students, Black students at USC, and they had only one at Alabama. And that student went on to become a professional athlete himself. But Sam was a sophomore, and when you were to be on the traveling team back in those days, you couldn't play as a freshman. So he was now a sophomore, and he told me the secret of his getting to play in that game, because there were four or five people ahead of him, was he memorized the playbook. Now, you've seen these playbooks in the modern era. They could be this big, but I would imagine his
Right.
playbook was pretty substantial. And so he, besides doing all his schoolwork, his training for football, his being, friends to his friends, sending phone calls home, calling his parents. I almost said sending a text home to his parents, but they didn't have that in 1970, but calling his parents, talking to his brothers. He was memorizing the playbook. He found the extra motivation, the inspiration, and the wherewithal to memorize that playbook. So he got put in the second quarter when USC was already dominating University of Alabama in Birmingham, and a very peak year, 1970, in the civil rights movement, because you had civil rights moving up, but you had a lot of resentment to that, and you had a pushback against that. So interesting story. So look that up. But Sam Cunningham scored two
Check it out.
touchdowns easily, and Alabama won that game easily, and that changed the way Black student athletes were allowed to play at these traditionally white colleges. Over to Javaris to hear his point of view on that.
That was very interesting. I've never personally heard of that, but I'm gonna definitely check it out because I'm always trying to incorporate, things like that within, my organization. I tell a lot of people like, my organization, being I'm a black person. I'm a black owner, president of an organization. I never want to just label the organization just for certain individuals. Diversity is huge. So when you look at Palm Beach Youth Football Alliance, you definitely get diversity. Obviously, you're gonna see more black athletes than white athletes, but those white athletes are welcome. You have like under black, you probably have a lot of Spanish athletes who come, a lot of Spanish athletes who come. But at the end of the day, we are one family, and that's what we push. We're all one family. Race doesn't define us. You're coming there to learn. To get a real life. So I'm gonna definitely check that out though to get some more information on that.
Yeah, Civil Rights Football Game, 1970, and you can look up on YouTube my interview, Sifu Slim with Sam Bam Cunningham, who's an incredible individual. And I'm glad that he took a few hours to spend that time with me. And, one of the things that came up is this trajectory from being a student athlete to a pro athlete to a busy person. He had a business, he owned a landscaping business in Long Beach, California. And so imagine that with employees, et cetera. It's a long day. And then you go home at night and you're eating dinner with your wife. And I said, because I'm a wellness person, I'm into fitness, wellness, being balanced, all these types of things, kind of a martial artsy type person who's always looking at how to be more balanced. And Sam was a little heavier than he wanted to be. So I was, doing some discussions with him around that. And I said, what are some of the things that you could change to get down in weight like you'd be? He said, well, I was cycling a lot in the last 5 to 10 years. And so I should get back into cycling. So Sam mentioned cycling more. He used to go on these long journeys, put his cycle as, like a 10 speed, 15, 20 speed, one of those bikes, put that on a bus and then go out into the hills outside of Long Beach and do cycling for a few hours and then come back to the bus stop, put on the bus and come back. And one of the things that came up in our interview is I said, did people recognize you on the bus? And this was, I think I interviewed him in 2014 or 15. He said, no, I was just another big black guy on the back of the bus. So that was funny because he's a big dude and they
Right,
didn't recognize him. But and football is one of the things that, especially in the 70s when he was playing, you don't see the person's face that much. You know, there were not all
right,
these interviews, there wasn't the YouTube channel, so people couldn't recognize you like a hockey player, baseball player, you get to see their face. But the one thing he did say is my wife's cooking me a lot of pasta, and that's putting on my weight. And so my counter argument to that was, it's not that she's cooking you that, Sam, it's that you and she are buying pasta. So if you don't buy pasta, there's no pasta to cook with. So if you need to lose weight,
right,
eliminating beer, pasta, bread, anything that's easily converted into sugar and fat, like these high carbohydrates food, eat more vegetable carbohydrates and less bread and pasta carbohydrates. But a skinny guy like me, how did I get up to, I just was on the scale near where I met you at the Publix, and they have a beautiful scale in there. And I stood on it and I was 188, which is the highest I've been in my entire life. And how did I get there? Happiness, peace, and pasta. I've been doing a lot more pasta, so I was able to put some meat on. Over to Javaris for some of his thoughts.
that's impressive. I can actually relate to that a little bit because, like he said, he was eating that pasta, and he wasn't forced to. It was just something that was just tasty to him. So, I'm actually in a situation right now where I'm trying to drop a few pounds. I'm
Yeah.
actually at the biggest I've ever been. But again, it's one of them things where it's just like it just goes back to discipline. If you're not disciplined, it's easy to put on that weight and it's hard to lose. My doctor pretty much told me when I went, like, hey, certain things that you just gotta cut out. It's going to be hard, but at the end of the day, if you want to be around a little bit longer, if you want to be healthy, you're just going to have to cut it out. I was like, I think my diet is pretty much simple, but I like a lot of sodas. And then she was like, hey, you may have to go to sparkling water. And I was like, I'm a coach. So I do like a lot of Gatorade and stuff. She's like, you're gonna have to dilute that with more water than Gatorade and just use it more for like a little tasting. So that's where I'm at now. And then, obviously is changing your diet. She told me to like stay away from the mashed potatoes and, switch it up, go to like a baked potato, utilize the air fryer, that type of stuff. So, but most importantly, it's just discipline. The body won't consume what you don't allow it to consume. And I mean, you're gonna have those cheat days, and from time to time, but you definitely want to be more disciplined.
What about the comment about purchasing the right things and not purchasing the wrong things?
I'm gonna tell you, I think, for example, I think in a black community, I think being that, funds are low, it's more easier to eat unhealthy than healthy. Like it's more easier to go look at Walmart. They have great value, right? Just because they know great value alone is going to attract a certain type of customers. Like when you look at Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, you're gonna get quality, but who wants to spend 30 $40 on three products when I can go to Walmart and get great value and I can get 10 products for under $25. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's about quality. However, I think with the information that's available to us now, I think you can research ways to get more bang for your buck and try to eat healthy and mhm.
Oh, so how about this? I'm going to share with you a little bit about Sylvester Stallone, Rocky 1 through Rocky a million. They asked him about why was he training so hard later in life. I think he might have been 67 or 68 when they asked him that. And he's got his own podcast as well. So he was going through the questions of listeners, and he wanted to know why he's training. So he said it's ego, pure and simple. So that's an interesting take. He wants to look in the mirror and look good. He wants to be on camera and looking good. He fought in Rocky IV Dolph Lundgren, who I think is 6'5" or 6", who's, you know,
Right, the
younger
Russian.
athlete, playing the Russian, what was his name there? Ivan Drago. So playing that
Hmm.
actor, and this guy had bigger shoulders, bigger everything than Stallone. So Stallone got in some of his peak performance back then. He was probably 40 or something like that, but now he's in the 70s. And so imagine that's his motivation to, you know, ego and looking good. Mine is I certainly want to look good. I certainly want to have good posture and, you know, the most what would I call it, uniform physique. I don't want to look like my physique is out of whack for my build. I have a thin build, don't have real big shoulders, got a long neck. I don't want to build up like a giant body under this and be
Right.
clunky. I want to look more like a good runner, a good athletic runner, or a good athletic tennis player. That's kind of my look. So I always work on that. But my main thing besides ego, I think, you know, ego is fine, but it's balance and pain free. And I want to be able to run, jump, hit the tennis ball, do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, swim. I want to be functional. So over to Javaris about some of these thoughts.
Man, you hitting some good points. You hitting some good points, and it's just like being that we haven't even had a conversation, and you're just doing it live right now. Um, you definitely want to have the balance, and I just it's just the sense of just being yourself. Anybody who's suffering from like obesity, it does something to it can take you into a depressed state. Um, I know for myself, it's just like being that this is the biggest that I've ever been, right? Being that this is the biggest that I've ever been, there's some times where I'd be like when I was in high school, going to college, I was like, man, I'll never get over 195, right? But then real life happened, get over 195, approach them 200s, 215s, 220s plus, your body starts to you can tell the difference, right? So for me, I say just like low back pain, right? I ended up getting into an accident having low back pain. And you've seen multiple doctors, I even had a back surgery, right? And it just come down to like, okay, my body is different now, but could weight be contributing to the back pain? And after just consulting with like a lot of doctors, um, they haven't said that, but just from research, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, it can be that. So just looking in the mirror and just feeling proud, walking the beach with no shirt on, you got those abs, just feeling healthy, you know what I mean? And it's like you want to get back to those days, but again, it just comes with discipline. And I even considered, I was like, man, I gotta tell this 2024, you can take the easy route. Most people are just going to get lipo, going to get lipo. But I was like, when you're an athlete, that's not the first thing. You just have to go back to the discipline to get back in shape. Because even if you get lipo, you still gonna have to put some work in, or it's gonna come right back. So, you know, um, just being pain free, having your pride on 100, not caring what other people think or what they're gonna say about you. Um, you just got to go back to the script, and if you take it serious, you'll see results. But if you don't take it serious, you won't see results. Your health will continue to decline.
I'm going to hook us up with a video here, screen share.
Yeah, see me, 98% of them call me Coach Snoop. The ones that don't know me may say Snoop Dogg or Snoop Doggy Dogg, but the ones that know me, that know football, know that they got to call me Coach Snoop, and that's the greatest feeling in the world when a kid calls you coach. Let me see 24 lead out of that, 24 lead. Anytime I call a lead, that means you get right in front of the hole that we lead in front of, and you lead flat. Don't even be in the eye. How's it changed your life, you think, being involved in this? Definitely made me a better person, a better father, and a better husband. Just overview in life, I became a more humble, more loving, caring individual that has more of an ear to hear what's going on as opposed to trying to direct what's going on.
So that's really impressive when you see an elite rapper, elite public figure who's, he's had some times where he's been around crime, he's been around excessive behavior with women and TV shows showing a lot of skin and kind of the decadent side of life. And here he is later in life. I would guess he's within 5 years of me. I'm 61. And he's got gray hair now, and he's out there. He's still fit, and he's talking football and motivation and mindset and doing the right thing to young people. And he said it's making him a better person. I mean, you've got these young ears, these young eyes, these young hearts and young minds looking up to you. Don't you want to be a respectable person? Don't you want to treat yourself and other people right? So that's my point of view from Sifu. Over to Javaris and see what he has to say.
So pretty much, anybody who's trying to uplift the younger generation, you definitely want to be a role model because they're gonna be pretty much like a sponge. They're gonna take in every single thing that they see you doing. So, with me and my volunteers at Palm Beach Youth Football Alliance, we don't just consider ourselves coaches. We look at ourselves as mentors, role models. We want people who have made mistakes in life, who have decided to change because you have a certain audience who can learn from them. When you're talking with a guy like me, 3 degrees, associates, bachelors, and masters, I'm a positive guy, so I attract a certain type of kids. But those kids who are out there, making no mistakes, sometimes it takes a person who have went through a lot of things in their life to, get to them. So anybody who comes to us, I make sure I'm doing the right thing at all times. I watch what I post on social media because I know I can't preach something and not practice it. I have to practice what I preach. So I tell my kids, like, look, first impression matters. If I'm carrying myself into a negative manner, how can I get on you guys for carrying yourself into a negative manner? It makes no sense. I pretty much be like a hypocrite. So I watch what I post and to know that it's 2024 and everything you do is pretty much being documented. So it's like all it takes is that one bad video. One bad video and your reputation is damaged and people start looking at you sideways. But the organization, we got great mentors and role models who can pretty much be an asset to a kid more off the field than on the field. Like Snoop, I've been following Snoop for a minute, especially, he got his own youth football league. Then he had a TV show on Netflix. And I've been following it. And one thing about it is those kids look at it like, for you to be a multimillionaire and you're coming back and you're pouring into us, that's important, so he automatically get the utmost respect just from them, just because of his celebrity status. And he's coming back down to kids who don't really have anything. So, his alumni list is long for the Snoop Youth Football League. But again, he's doing a great thing. And he's just pretty much giving kids an opportunity to possibly get to where he's at musically or on the football field, just to get to the highest of the highest, the NFL.
And he's got a family with kids, so he's also a role model for setting up your own family. Doesn't matter what you do for a living. You could be the guy who checks out people at the Publix or loads up bags at the Publix. Whatever your occupation, you want to have a family, you got to have a partner to do that with. Husband and wife is where I came from, but there are a lot of people doing it with same sex or whatever. So that's the wave of maybe the last 20 years, more accepting of different people that come at these kids with love, with discipline, with listening skills, with empowerment, with reinforcement and being present. So all of those things are part of being a good mentor, part of being a good parent. Do you know, Javaris, how Snoop learned about football? Did he play football as a kid or did he learn it later in life? Hi, this is Sifu Slim, author of The Aging Athlete. In this book, you're going to get to hear about two different groups of former high-performance athletes. One group, which is made up of 90% of the former athletes, does not do physical activity on a regular basis and tends to suffer the consequences of a sedentary lifestyle. The other group, which is made up of 10% of the former athletes, is doing physical activity on a regular basis and tends to thrive through the aging process, or at least has a better chance at coping with the aging process. We could have taken these folks to a lab and done all kinds of tests on them. Instead, we slowed them down and sat them down and asked them, in their own words, to describe why they're wired the way they are, so that we all, former athletes and non-athletes, can use some of their inspirational and motivational and mindset lessons in our own lives. I hope you pick up a copy today. You can go to theagingathlete.com. And when you have a chance to read it, I'd love to hear back from you to find out what your thoughts are on the stories of these aging athletes.
I believe he played football, but I think the music took off. The music took off. You know how that is. Once the music took off, you don't look back at it. But I know he's a big Steelers fan. So just being able to, he's at a stage now where he can impact that youth community. Just because, for me personally, when I grew up and I was playing football, I can tell you that no coach that I came across focused on it how I focused on it, as far as like life lessons. I think a lot of coaches, and I think Snoop, they really focus on that, where it can take you, the experiences and the knowledge you can learn from it and relate it to life. That's why it's that big. That's why his target reach is all over California with the league. Just because of the experience and being able to just have somebody come back and say, hey, I was headed down the wrong path. If I had this sport, it could have possibly, changed my life,
Yeah.
But again, it's more of that mentorship. That mentorship is, it goes a long way. For young men, mentorship is critical because, it sets you up for later in life.
Yeah.
If I had it, I would have learned some things quicker than what I learned later in life.
How did you know to flip the switch and open up your heart and mind to work on some of the things that you needed to work on to advance your skills with school, with being a coach, with being an athlete, these types of things? How did that happen for you?
I always been a go-getter. And, coming out of high school, I didn't have a mentor to let me know that, hey, if you don't, the goal was always NFL. I never really thought, I never really planned my life to say, hey, what if I don't go to the NFL? What if college don't work out? That's why you need a mentor, so that they can guide you. I didn't have that, right? So I just knew, like, once I got to college and, I started off at Bethune-Cookman University in Daytona Beach, Florida, and pretty much like walk on there. And, things wasn't going right. So at that point, I'm frustrated. I got in contact with a few of the coaches who recruited me, and they ended up getting fired the next season. But my plan was to enroll there, for the spring semester. And that didn't go as planned. So I'm very much frustrated. So I ended up transferring to a school in North Carolina called Mars Hill University. And, I was going to play there. But again, it's just, when you're transferring, you got all these NCAA clearinghouse rules. And it was just like, I felt my opportunity to play the game, it was just declining because I'm getting older and the incoming recruits are way younger than me. So it's just like, my football dreams are over. I really have to find something. To do that can, tie my love for the game into it. And, coaching was just something. When I got back from Florida, I was just like, hey, let me coach you football. I can't even remember how I came across it, but, I applied for an organization down here called Palm Beach Gardens, Pop Warner. And this guy named Brandon Aronson, he gave me my first opportunity to be a head coach. I was like one of the youngest head coaches. And like after a year or two, I saw the impact that I was making on the youth lives, and it was just more like my approach is more big brother. My approach is, hey, you're a kid, you're gonna make mistakes in life, but let's focus on finding a solution. I can't sit and drill you about a mistake because when I was your age, I made those mistakes too. So, after seeing the impact that I was making on the youth lives and stuff, in 2019, I decided to start my own organization. And that's where I incorporated a lot of the mentorship life skills just because, just being a head coach with these other programs, those programs have an expiration date. My program is year round. Those programs, the main reason to get you there is just to play football from August to October, August to November, whatever. But my program, it's a year round program. Once the actual football season is over, we're still going to be doing things with you. So you don't feel lost once that season comes to a close. I was feeling lost when I was playing, and to know that I'm not going to see my teammates anymore. I'm not going to see them to next year. So it was only right for me to go in and revise some things and try to keep it attractive to my participants.
Got it. So did you go right from your bachelor's degree to a master's degree?
About that journey, man. It was so when I got back to Florida from Mars Hill University, because I ended up leaving at that time, I was going through a dark moment and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I had plans on transferring to uh Virginia State University. I had talked to the coach there. I had took a visit. And once it got down to like the paperwork process, I just decided to go back to Florida. When I got back to Florida, again, I wasn't really thinking about school. I was just thinking about getting back to my safe haven, which was Florida, because I grew up in Florida. I had never went to another state, probably visited, but never to live. So once I got back to Florida, I think I picked up a little part-time job. I ended up saying, I got to go back and get my degree. So I'm leaving North Carolina, no degree. I'm leaving North Carolina, no degree. So I say, not having a degree, I felt like a failure, just because I had told myself mentally, like, yo, I got to get this degree. Like, I probably not going to go to the NFL, but I got to get the degree. So I came back, I got a little job. And then I said, you know what? Being that I'm older now, it's impossible for me to go back to a physical campus. I'm gonna have to do it online. So probably in 2015, I enrolled at Kaiser University online, and I got my associate's degree. You know what? I think it was a little bit before that. So probably like 2013, I enrolled into Kaiser, got my associate's degree in 2015 in criminal justice, because at that time I was like, I want to be a cop. I want to be a cop. So I got the associate's degree, and then I went back and I was like, I had that feeling. I was feeling like a kid in the candy store. I was like, I gotta get that bachelor's. Like that's the goal. I can't just settle for the 2-year degree. So I re-enrolled in the Kaiser, started taking classes to get the bachelor's. They contacted me and they told me, hey, financial aid it's too much. It's too much here because Kaiser a private university. So I say, so my advisor like, what do you advise? And then they were like, look, go to Florida institution and you can get the state costs per credit. So I enrolled at FAU. Um, Going to FAU, I transferred credits, and I started off there. I think it was going to be in criminal justice, the bachelor's too. But then again, it was just like I was paying for it out of pocket. So I met with my advisor and like, hey, what's the fastest I can get this bachelor's degree? Just because I had already been enrolled at FAU for like a year and a half, and it was just, give me some advice. They said, look, you can get your degree this year if you swap it to general studies. So I swapped it to general studies, and I graduated. I think that was probably like COVID August 2020, I graduated, and then I let a year go by, and then I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm like, I got my bachelor's, but I got to keep going. So the mindset have always been I have to keep going, pretty much never satisfied. So I was looking online one day, and I was like, I got to get a master's degree. So I found a college in St. David, Pennsylvania called Eastern University. I did a lot of research on them, and I know you can get an MBA for like $10,000. So I applied, I registered, and master's degrees sometimes they take you up to 2 years. But with me, I had a plan. So I advise all athletes, all people of life who are looking to elevate, just have that plan. So my plan was I'm paying for it out of pocket. I need to be done in 1 year. I got to be done in 1 year. So I applied. I got accepted into the master's program. I completed my MBA. I believe it was like December 2023, I believe. I think that's what it is. 2023, 2022 is one of them. So I completed that. And like I say, for me, it was just, I got to put the work in overtime. I got to put in overtime. So I was doubling up on classes just so that I can literally, my timeline is really 1 year. And what's crazy about it, after I got my MBA, I told myself, I'm done with school. But this past month, I said, you know what? I got to get a doctorate. I got to get a doctorate. So, like I say, we shall see what happens with that.
That's an incredible story, Javaris. Fascinating that I was just mentioning before we got online that out of all the coaches that were out there and all the parents, et cetera, I honed in on you, and it wasn't because you had open karma. You had your glasses on, you were kind of hidden out, and I approached you, and there was nothing like you were open to, but you accepted my short question to touch base with you on a YouTube interview like we have. And now I get to meet you, in a setting that's more conducive to a normal conversation. And you don't have your
Right,
game face on, as I said, but now we're diving
right, right,
into who you are. And one of the strongest personality traits that you expressed and what I'm seeing is enough is never enough. So that's good. Let's
correct.
take a look at that over here. If we've got that, enough is not enough. We got to keep going. So that's great. What if you could meld that, if you could combine that with balance so that you go, okay, we got a mind, we got a body, we got a spirit, we got our faith, we got our family. How do I balance all this stuff out? And then my coaching and all these things. So it's just this nice circular ball, this pie chart where I've got a lot of balance in there. Yes, I'm this motivated person. I'm going to keep pushing, which is wonderful. Most top athletes, most directors of organization, and a lot of good people out there, the pastors at the church, they have that personality trait that you have. Randall Cunningham had it. His brother Sam had it, and they became pro athletes. Deion Sanders, top coach, never say
Right.
die, never say quit. Snoop Dogg, high performance and so many things. But to guard yourself and your back and all the injuries and your weight and all these things, having a balance mixed into that high performance and never saying enough is enough is something that I would recommend that you look to. And I'm a coach that helps people get to that. So if you ever want to do some of that with me, I'd be more than happy to open that vein
Most
up
definitely.
and we could do it on Zoom. But I started out in life as a balanced person. I got hurt in all the sports that I did. I'm tall, I'm lean, and I had to learn how to balance myself out. I had to compete with the guys who were the big, strong athletes like Javaris, who were these linebacker build people. And how was I going to do that? It wasn't going to be by out strengthen, using my strength against them. It wasn't going to be because I had more speed. I had to be a different kind of athlete. And I'll share with that in the next moment. But over to Javaris for some of his comments on what I just shared.
Man, you hit it spot on the head when you talk about balance. I have a few businesses, like 3 to 4 businesses outside of the organization. I obviously work. And one thing my staff get on me about is balance. In 2022, that was one of our biggest seasons. We had just decided to go into Pop Warner. But when we went into Pop Warner, I didn't have balance. You know, I just was my head was everywhere, man. And it's like we ran into some issues, and it was mainly because of balance. And if you don't have balance, your mental ain't gonna be straight. Your mental just ain't gonna be straight. And I ran into a lot of issues. Like I've never had a mental breakdown, right? But during 2022, I had a mental breakdown just because I had no balance. In 2022, my youngest daughter was born, and she was born in August, and the season was starting in August. And the thing about that, yeah, in 2022, she wasn't. I wasn't happy when she was born, just because I had so many issues going on with the organization. um, I just wasn't happy. And a lot of my guys, they got on me. It was just like, yo, you need to find some balance. You need to, let us take over for you. But I'm that guy who, when I commit to it, I just feel like I gotta be there. So, you know, after that season, after experiencing what we experienced, I told myself, going forward, I'm gonna have to separate, my personal life, my family, the business from each other. And once I started doing so, once I started, giving my time, managing my time better. When I leave the field, like say now, my process is once we leave the field on Saturdays, we don't talk about it until Mondays. You know, just think of you talking about football 7 days a week, talking about the business 7 days a week. It does something to the brain, and that's it just was it overtook me, man, and it put me in a bad space. But like I said, now I'm happier than I ever been, just because I found that balance. I found out how to still love the game, but do certain things here and there.
Yeah, it's called excessiveness. I think that's a good word when you're doing too much in some areas or too much in every area. And now all of a
Right,
sudden your diet, your relaxation, your digestion, your sleep, your cuddling with your significant other, your hugging your
right,
kids, it all gets compromised and you don't do it the way you need to do it. Each interaction with a kid has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you want to do that right. You don't want to be the coach who's on the phone with one hand, he's got a kid in another hand, and then the wife's over there and she's got a problem. You got too much going on. So,
right,
one of the things that is I've been fortunate to develop myself in an advanced way, keeping that balance going, writing 7 books, learning 3 languages, working on my fourth, getting what I call your own personal PhD in many fields, and I'm not asking for a university to give me any degree right now. Maybe
right,
if I become famous someday, they'll give me an honorary degree. Maybe Snoop Dogg is going to get one if he hasn't got one already. I think that's great.
right,
But for my own personal knowledge, I know that when I talk to a psychologist, psychiatrist, an elite boxing coach, an elite athlete, an orthopedic surgeon, a writer, a historian, I can keep up with these people at a very advanced level, maybe not in their niche field of research, but in terms of many of the things that we're talking about, since I spend so much time with big questions that I have, I want to work things out. I want to find answers to things. And I will stumble through a conversation sometimes, testing things, seeing if this
right.
works with somebody who's smarter than me in that specific area. And that's what I get. So when I speak with Javaris Neely, I can test some of these things. He shares his thoughts, maybe corrects me in an area, and then I go back and then I'm going to look up Snoop Dogg and did he have football experience? How did he learn? Because it sounded in that short video that he knew a little bit about football and how the plays worked and
Right.
where the positions, where they fit. Over to Javaris for his thoughts.
Yeah, man. You don't need to go to college. You know what I mean? You can learn just by having a conversation with somebody. However, being that the way society is, obviously they require, that piece of paper. But like you say, just having a conversation with somebody who's already in that profession, if you can keep up with them, you can take information from them, pick their brain a little bit. You can walk away with that knowledge. I always say, just think of it as if you find somebody who, like a professional businessman who offers consultations, right? You're paying for the shortcut. You're not paying for the knowledge. You're paying for the shortcut. So imagine meeting with people and not even having to pay for the shortcut. That's a degree itself because they're going to pitch so many jewels to you. You know what I mean? They're going to pitch so many jewels to you. So, like, say for me and the organization, we have it where we help kids get summer jobs. We teach them trades. We take them to workshops, that type of stuff, right? We have it where, like, say, I tell my kids to have a plan. If you don't want to go to college, have that plan. How are you going to get money? How are you going to be able to take care? How are you going to be able to take care of your family, right? So we have this one program where we teach the kids how to be entrepreneurs. The financial literacy, so that if you don't want to go to college, you already had the basic tools. We're going to give it to you, the basics. You're going to enhance it if it's something that you're interested in. And yeah, that's what we do. So just aligning yourself with the right individuals, having those, build your contact list, having great conversations, that's a degree itself.
I'm going to share the screen again, and we're going to go to an individual who was coached throughout his life, and later on in life, he opened up a church after he had a few fights after the famous fight called the Rumble in the Jungle in Zaire against Muhammad Ali, where he lost his title and he got knocked out by an Ali who was completely prepared for that fight in every way you can imagine. He was prepared for that fight. His confidence was not a fake confidence. He was ready. And George Foreman got hurt in sparring, and he cut himself on the forehead. So that gave Ali even more time to prepare. I think it was something like an extra 3.5 to 4.5 weeks, something like that. So Ali got even more ready and started to vibe, as we say in Hawaii and California. He started to vibe off of the energy from the people in Zaire, Africa, and it uplifted them. And the poor Foreman, who didn't quite fit in there, was far away from home, was not comfortable, was not good on the media yet, none of that. He had so many forces against him that he couldn't excel, and he loses his fight. And then he's got to go home, and he's got to pick up the pieces. He tried a few more fights, and it just did not click with him. And he was smart enough to know at age 25, 26, whatever he was when he stopped his first career, that he had to do something more with his life. So he opened up a church. He had a youth center. He started mentoring people. He had a lot of kids. As many people know, they're all named George, George 1, George 2, George 3. I forget what his daughters' names are, but he's an interesting guy. And now here he is on his way back to gain the championship. The fight against Ali was in 1974 in Kinshasa, Zaire. Here he is, March 19th of 1988, against a guy who is much shorter than he is, but almost weighs as much as Foreman does. And you can look up, they're both still alive. You can look up Dwight Muhammad Qawi, who's an American guy, interesting name, but he is an American guy. I think he's from New Jersey, but the video I watched on him yesterday, he's from New Jersey. You can listen to his interview, and you can listen to how disciplined Qawi was, and how that in your career, you're not always at this peak level that you want to be. Sometimes you're on that wave and everything's clicking, and sometimes you're not. But Foreman, what I wanted to show you about this video is he has resolve. What a great word, resolve. He's committed to regaining the heavyweight championship. Nothing is going to prohibit him from doing that. And this is part of his journey to do that. So I'm going to click play, and we can just watch just a short moment.
All right.
Howie is talking to him.
Howie was hurt earlier, and now he's back against the ropes.
In that last round. There's George very lazy with a jab, and he gets countered by a left hook.
In a round.
And another left hook. And George is trying to push him off.
And that, a very familiar posture for Foreman.
But you counter it. You counter it with your right hand, okay? Right? But get the chin down. I want your eyes on him all the time. Let him go the right hand.
So what I wanted to share with that is you can see Foreman is tired and he gets hit twice in that fight by Colby, who's really a really tough competitor. He's shorter. I think he might be 5'10", and he's throwing these shots. He might even be 5'8". I can't remember, but we'll look that up. But he's throwing these shots up on George, and he's completely committed to it. You should have two boxers at a time where they're training their buns off, and they're out there doing their best. They've got all this entourage, the coaches, the trainers, the cut men, etc. Each of them, I believe, have families. Foreman, I think, had 10 kids that I know of by this time. And he's got his church he needs to raise money for, the youth center, all this stuff. So he's got all of these reasons to be the best that he can be. But the world is telling him, George, you're too old. You got to retire. You're getting hit. You're too old to do this young man's sport. You already had your time. You did your thing, but you got to get out of here. But he said, nope, I'm going to keep going. And then he had his George Foreman grill. So he made millions on that. And he's been a great spokesperson for anything that he's doing. And I also say for the black race of American black race and the black race of the world. I think he's been a good role model. He's a lighthearted, fun guy to listen to, and he's very knowledgeable. So over to Javaris on his thoughts on this commitment that George Foreman made way back when.
Hey, man, it's just about the resilience. We know all good things come to an end, but again, have a plan in place. How are you going to continue your legacy? And that was just the way he wanted to continue his legacy by, getting involved, creating the grill, still attracting his community, creating a product that could benefit his community, the youth centers, that type of stuff. All of that has a connection itself, kind of like me. I still found that way. I wasn't a professional athlete. I went to college, had an opportunity and an experience. And then later in life, I just found, I say I found my purpose. And my purpose was just to always provide resources for the youth that I didn't have. So provide resources for, the kids, provide resources to the kids that I didn't have access to. So now that I'm in a position, I can provide those resources. I can give them advice. I can guide them and steer them in the right direction. And that's professional itself, So a lot of my youth look up to me and they be like, they swear I'm rich. I'm like, nah, it's not rich. It's just, I find a way, I make it happen. And that right there is inspiration to them and motivation to them itself, And I just tell them, if you don't work, you don't eat. So if you want to eat, you got to work.
So when I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, same as Randall Cunningham, there were a lot of mafia influences. I grew up in New Jersey, and you'll if you look back at that period, the mafia controlled a lot of businesses, construction, trucking. They laundered money with some of the pizza place businesses back in the day, and there's still mafia out there. And now we have an elite group of people who help each other out kind of behind the scenes and fund each other's companies and give each other breaks, control the court system, all these types of things. Javaris, did you have a difficult time breaking into the business world because of people trying to keep you out? And if so, how did you get beyond that? Or tell us about how your journey happened in the business world.
My journey in the business world, sorry I'm off camera, I'm just handling something right now. But my journey in the business world, it was just, once I did my research, I just felt like I can do anything. You know, the sky's the limit. I didn't felt like I needed anyone's approval. I just felt like if I was committed to it, everything else just fall in place. What comes with falling in place? Obviously, you know, you're gonna have your ups and downs, but at the end of the day, you know, you still have to go and you know, put that work in. So you know, with me, it was never, I ended up meeting Damon John. He's the founder of Fubu. He's the founder of Fubu. And you know, one thing that he said that stuck with me is everything in this world has been done already, right? Everything in the world has been done already. However, only thing you can really do is add on to it, be more innovative. And if you do that, you just find, well, while doing that, you'll obviously find your niche. And once you find your niche, you just stick to it and the rest will fall in place. And that's the approach that I've taken. Like just where I'm at right now in Palm Beach County, there are like 20, not 20, but there are like 10 youth football leagues. All of them have the same thing in common. You're gonna sign your kid up for football, and you're gonna pay us X amount of dollars for a registration fee, right? So with my league, obviously I had to be a little bit innovative, you know, switch things up. Was it easy? No, because you know it's not easy. Like you have this one particular league here. They've been around since '79. We just came out in 2014. I mean 2019. There's no way we can relate to them just because of their years of establishment. However, they're not being innovative. They're just going off establishment. So with that being said, by us being innovative, we climb them slowly and slowly because we're providing something that they don't provide.
Thanks, Javaris. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. All right, later.
So this is Sifu Slim winding down today. Conversation with Javaris Neely, coach, entrepreneur, mentor, and motivated person. So that's been good. And I hope you folks out there, your listeners, your viewers, can take some of this and travel along your journey and see what you can do. See what you can do in terms of balance. See what you can do in terms of productivity and performance, and never letting things stop you. There's going to be obstacles. There are going to be things that get in your way. That's normal, but let's see if you can continue on your journey despite those things. Like a football player, bounce off the pads, bounce off the tackle, turn your body, try a different direction. That's one of the things we can all do. Try a different direction. Try to train differently. Try to learn different things. Try to be innovative, as Javaris said. So that's all good stuff. So wishing you all the best. Please like and subscribe. Wishing you all the best in your health, happiness, and wellness. I'm Sifu Slim. Aloha.